We have with us our esteemed guest, Mr. Chinmay Anand, who is a financial educator, business storyteller, professional speaker, and author. Chinmay Anand sir has till date trained around more than 950 business owners and non-finance managers in Australia, China, India, and Indonesia. He has designed and developed business finance subjects for MBA students that are being taught in 3 universities in Australia. Mr. Chinmay Anand, his training program is accredited by the the Institute of Chartered Management Accountants Australia. He is currently National Treasurer at Professional Speakers Australia. Mr. Chinmay Anand has a book named Fundamental of Financial Statement, which is being used by more than 20,000 students. I welcome you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rahul sir and Dr. Nileji for the welcome and introduction. Now, I prefer to keep this session interactive, so I'll be asking you a few questions. I'd really appreciate if you could type it in the chat box or feel free to unmute yourself. Now, just to make sure that my voice is audible and I can see most of you have turned off your webcam. If it's all right, if your internet streaming is good, now feel free to switch on your webcam so that I can see some of the facial expression and probably you nodding, and I know that there are actually people behind those devices. Okay, having said that, how much is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5? Please type it in the chat box. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. You can type it in the chat box. Please don't tell me that you're using a calculator for this. Nishi is saying 16. Kushi is saying 16. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5.
On your cameras, please. Please start your cameras, everyone.
Anybody else who would like to type in your answer? Parth is saying 50. Kushi is saying 15. Oh, Nishi and Kushi there. Kind of revise their answer. It's 15. Okay, great. Thank you. Now just want to make sure that we are warming up our brain as well. Now, another question. Please listen to me carefully. Just how much divided by 5? 5 divided. I'm not sure if there is some kind of a connection lag. Are you still able to hear me? If yes, could maybe I'll request Mr. Niket Sharma. If you give me a thumbs up so I know that my voice is audible. Because for some reason I'm not able.
Actually, your is breaking. I was losing in the middle. In between, we are losing you. I do not know if I'm audible to you.
Okay. Please give me 1 second. Okay, let's try. Close all of this. Is it slightly better by any chance?
Yes.
Oh, great. So let's continue. In case if my voice is not audible, feel free to let me know, Mr. Niket. Now, coming back to what I was saying, could someone please tell me how much is 5 plus 5 divided by 5? You can type it in the chat box. 2, Parth is saying 2, Nishi is saying 2, Kushi is saying 6, Shruti is saying 2. Okay, we have got a bit of mixed responses, but anyway, please continue. Anybody else with a different answer or different opinion? 5 plus 5 divided by 2. So some of you, most of you are saying 2, and Kushi is saying 6. Okay, let's take a look at this. Now, some of you, if you went saying that, you know what, 5 plus 5 divided by 5, and if you were like, okay, 5 plus 5 is 10, I divided by 5, it's 2. But probably, I believe, Kushi might have assumed 5 plus 5 divided by 5 equals 6, 5 plus 1. Now the question is, who is right? Is 2 the correct answer or 6 the correct answer? More than trying to have a debate around whether the answer is 2 or 6, the point I'm trying to make here is, when it comes to numbers, this is what I have observed in many organizations. Because when we are communicating numbers using the language of business, that is numbers, many a times the challenge is the misconception or the misinterpretation that happens. Now, I see Kushi saying that I have not heard properly. Now, is it still the case or is it getting better?
So it's much better now. It's much better now, sir.
Much better. Yeah. Okay, great. So let me continue. Now, as children, when we were kids, we learned by seeing things and then by touching. We saw colors. We felt the texture of something, and then the senses were taking all the information. And then we learned language, and then it was numbers. Many times when people say that, oh my God, numbers, finance, accounting, it's confusing and I don't get it. It is simply because they're trying to learn from the numbers perspective rather than looking at from other key elements like storytelling or many other things through which we had learned previously. So today we are going to understand how do we go about communicating numbers so that there is less miscommunication. Now, what is miscommunication? It simply means we are missing the communication. That is simply because, again, we are assuming things. Now, I understand some of you are messaging me saying that there is bit of a voice lag, or when I'm changing the scene, you are not able to see it clearly. So please let me know. I'm not sure because the internet is right here. It's the internet speed is showing it's really good. But however, let's continue. In case if it is too much, then let me know. We will see what else can be done. Great. Let me continue. Now, the lady that you are seeing on my screen is my wife, whom I married in 2019 BC, before COVID. She is a doctor, and her expertise is in diabetes. Now, I'm not sure how many of you have got a doctor in your family. If you have a doctor in your family, invariably, you are expected to listen to them with regards to the kind of patients that they would have seen or the complexity that they would have come across in a particular patient. And that is exactly what was happening. In fact, what is still happening. Now, at the very beginning, one day she came and said, Chinmay, you know what? The patient that I saw today, he has got BP of 160 by 100. Now, I'm an engineer. Again, don't ask me why I became an engineer in India, as most of you are from India. In fact, all of you are from India. You can relate to me. First, we become engineers, and then we ask, what am I supposed to do in life? Same thing. Father is an electrical engineer, brother is a mechanical engineer, friends in my street, one is a telecom engineer, computer science engineer, info science engineer. So I was like, I'm feeling left out. As they say, monkeys see, monkeys do. I ended up being an engineer. So for me, 160, 100, okay, from what context? In fact, when she said BP, I was like, okay, does it mean blood pressure? She said yes. So what's normal? Oh, the normal is 90 to 120. Okay, what's the highest that someone can still go and live? And she's like, no, it depends on many other factors. I was like, okay, we are not going anywhere in this conversation. And another day she came and said, oh, the HbA1c level of one of my patients was 7.5. I was like, okay, what does 7.5 means? She's like, which means it's really high. Okay, what's normal? Oh, if it is below 5.5, it means the person is not diabetic. If it is anywhere between 5.6 to 6.5, then it is pre-diabetic. Like, okay, so what is HbA? Oh, HbA is like hemoglobin. Okay, fine. What exactly is going to happen with the patient? Oh, the pancreas, as soon as it knows that the food is coming to the stomach, it starts releasing something called as insulin, and then it goes to all the cells, blah blah blah. With people who are diabetic, it doesn't happen. That's why now they're given external insulin. Like, okay, pancreas, just I was asking a lot of questions, and she got really, kind of irritated. She said, if my teacher had heard you, my medical teacher had heard you asking all these questions, she would have given one whack on your head. Well, I think I was asking question to get some clarity. And of course, when the COVID happened, the first thing she did was she went and bought that oximeter. I'm sure some of you might have seen where you put that index finger and then it will tell you how much oxygen is in the blood. And she said, oh, Chinmay, I've got 97%. I was like, yay, that sounds like I've got high distinction. So is it good, bad? I'm all right. She's like, yeah, it's all right. So when am I supposed to get worried? If it goes below 94%, then I was like, did you say 94? She said yes, which means, am I in the borderline? It's like 94, 93, there's like only 3% difference. No, it's all right. But in blood pressure, you said 160 and 120, the variation, the gap is so much, but here it's only 3%. Anyway, the conversation is not going anywhere even till today, in spite of the fact I'm trying to understand from my engineer's perspective. See, the point I'm trying to make here is, for someone like me, who is an engineer, who doesn't have or who doesn't understand the medical terminologies and jargon, it is very difficult for me to have a meaningful conversation if someone is talking to me with level 5. Because when it comes to medical jargon, I'm like level 1 or level 0.05, something like that. And this is the gap. And the reason still I'm not able to understand most of this jargon is because I'm not able to understand it through a meaningful way, maybe preferably, using some of the strategies or patterns which has helped me to understand something previously. Now, this is what I was told by my mentor many years back when I was educating people on the subject finance. Now, most of the time, people have this misconception that finance is beyond my scope of understanding. I don't get it. It's boring and so on and so forth. So what my mentor made me understand is, Chinmay, unless you break that misconception of people who think finance is beyond the scope of understanding or who think that it's complicated and they don't understand all the jargon and so on and so forth, unless you break that perception, it will be very difficult for you to educate them on numbers. And this is where you have to bring in some element of fun and at the same time need to communicate it through stories. So after interacting with a lot of financial gurus and then interacting with a lot of business owners, I decided to explain, communicate, and help people understand the subject finance by comparing it with the game of football. Now, football, I'm sure most of you have played or you have seen, or at least you know what I'm talking about. No, it's the game where people kick the ball between two poles. That's the game I'm talking about. In football, the aim of the game is to score more goals than the opponent. In business, aim of the game is to make more money than it spends. Now, I'll be asking a few questions, so feel free, and I would really appreciate if you could type it in the chat box. In football, whenever someone scores, there is someone who is recording it. What do we call that person? What do we call the person who is recording scores whenever a goal has been scored by a football player? So please type it in the chat box. I'm not sure if you're typing it or if there is an internet lag. I'm not able to see messages on my screen. Okay, Mr. Harsh is saying a referee. Okay, anybody else? What do we call that person who records score in football? Well, to keep it simple, it's not the referee, it is the scorer. The person who is keeping score in any game, we call them scorer. In business, whenever a financial transaction happens, and this is where people are like, oh my God, finance, no, there's a lot of financial transaction, hundreds and thousands of them, it's so confusing, it's so complicated. I tell them, let me break that misconception right now, because when it comes to finance in any business, there can be only 4 types of financial transactions that can happen. Only 4 types. Ready? Money comes in, money goes out, money supposed to come in, money supposed to go out. Nothing in any organization can happen outside these 4 financial transactions. And the person who records it, in fact, whenever one of the 4 financial transaction happens, it has to be recorded. It's not an option. And the person who records it in business, they are known as bookkeeper. Game of football, it is scorer. In business, it is bookkeeper. In many small to medium scale businesses, what I've observed is this itself is an issue, because either they don't have a dedicated bookkeeper or not, books are not up to date. Now just ask yourself, if the scorer is not scoring the goals properly, will we know who's winning or losing? Same thing in business. When we don't have relevant financial transactions that are recorded, how will we know the so-called data that we are analyzing is accurate and it's going to help us make profitable decisions? Now back to football. As most of you have messaged, like Harsh and Kushi and Ayushi, you have mentioned referee. So in a game of football, there is a referee. Now, what is the role of a referee? The role of a referee is to make sure everyone abides by the rules of the game and there is a fair game played. This role in business, to a great extent, is played by accountant count. They count the financial transactions and they make sure business abides by the regulations set by the taxation office. Now, have you ever seen a football player asking the referee, hey, where should I kick the ball? Then why is that in business? Many a times, business owners and also many key decision makers are over dependent on accountants to help them make financial decisions. So whenever I share this, business owners will go, oh, is there a difference between finance and accounting? Yes. Finance starts when accounting ends. Let me elaborate more on that. Now, whenever I'm sharing this with accountants, started accountants, they get a bit offended and they say, Chinmay, we are not just referees. We also help them in planning and structuring the business and also helping them in giving advices, so on and so forth. I make it very clear saying that if you are playing those roles and providing extra service, then you have to make it very clear to your client saying that I not only play a role of an accountant, I also play a role of a financial advisor, financial planner, a CFO, and so on and so forth. Because definition of a good accountant for many people is someone who is going to help them pay less tax. Again, no miscommunication. We are trying to make sure that there is less assumption and we are understanding it. And then in the game of football, before a player kicks the ball, they know the score, they know the situation, and accordingly they will decide where they should be passing or they go after the goal. The decision that they make is based on numbers and the intention is to win. Same thing in business. When we are making a business decision, our decision is going to impact the bottom line directly or indirectly. And the intention is to make sure the decisions we make will help business to make profit, which is the bottom line. Now, many people still, they think they're a non-finance person, and I tell them non-finance person is a myth, because the decisions we make will directly or indirectly impact the bottom line. So we are all finance people. Back to football. The team wants to be on the winning streak. They want to win the championship. Same thing in business. Business wants to be profitable. For the business to be profitable, they need to have some of the P's: people, price, process, and the list goes on. Many a times, they have got department heads or they'll bring external consultants who unfortunately will be not on the same page. And again, they're missing the communication and they say, my department KPI is this, and they tick most of the boxes and they say my job is safe. Unfortunately, they fail to understand how it overall impacted the bottom line of the organization. Now, the last step is, okay, where do we want our organization to be 6 months from now, 1 year from now, 3 years from now? To know where the business needs to be, first we have to understand where is the business right now. I'm sure most of you, when you interact with business owners, they will say, oh, business is here. We make 5 crores, 10 crores, 50 crores turnover. But business is not just about turnover, it is more about leftover. And very few people, they understand the business, where is the business from PBT, profit before tax perspective. The next thing is to understand why is the business still here? Why are we making 10 or 50 or 100 crores? For that, we have to understand how the business got here in the first place. And whether in life or in business, all we are doing is, I'm here, I want to go there. In life, you might say, morning, I'm here at my home, and at 8 o'clock, I'm at home, and 9 o'clock, I would like to go there, which is to my office. Same thing in business. People say we are making 20 crores, we want to make 40 crores. But unfortunately, many a times 20, 40 is from turnover perspective, not from leftover perspective. And this is where, again, 5 plus 5 divided by 5, people are like, it might be 2, it might be 6, miscommunication. So after interacting with close to 1,000 business owners, what I've understood is predominantly they would like to know three things. One, where is our business from finance perspective? Why is our business still here? And the decisions we made yesterday, we took today, and we are planning to take tomorrow, will it help us to go from here to there or here to somewhere else? Now, this is one of the effective way of communicating and helping people understand the roles of what each one does and making sure that everyone is on the same page. This particular strategy, which I have used to explain all the sophisticated jargon, is by using this tip. I'll be sharing 5 tips today. So one of them is compare the unknown with the known. Football is something that people know. Of course, even though they may not have played the game, but at least to an extent, they know what that game is all about, to an extent. Finance, oh my God, I don't know anything about it. Great. So you have an unknown, you have a known. Compare the unknown with the known. And then people can relate so that this gap from level 1 to level 5 is slowly getting less small, and then we can introduce some jargon and terminology. Okay, great. Now, if you are still okay, if you're still able to hear me, give me a thumbs up or a yes in the chat box, please. Great, thank you. Thank you, Nupur, Samarth. Thank you. Oh, great. I'm getting more responses now. Thank you, everyone. So let's continue. Now, one of the questions that I usually ask business owners, even top decision makers, is, should a business have less money or more money? And most of them, they say, oh, ideally, it is better if a business has more money. And I tell them, of course, no, if a business has less money, they will get into problem. They will not be able to pay the lenders or salary or rent and so on and so forth because there will be shortage. However, if business has more money, they will get into bigger problems. Now, this is the statement that I want to make, and this is the point I want to communicate. However, many a times what happens is most of the business owners are not able to relate to it. They're like, how is that having more money is not good for a business? So let me tell you why it is so. Now, please tell me if you can still see the white board. Can you see this white board on my screen? Yes, yes. Okay, great. Awesome. So this incident happened. Yep, sorry.
Yeah, no, so I was just saying to everybody that if you switch the view, if you go to the view and then switch to who is talking, then I think the view is much better in terms of we can see what you're doing. But if we keep the tiles view, then I think the icon becomes too small.
Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying and letting everyone know. So just to quickly repeat what Dr. Neelaj sir has just told us, somewhere in the middle, you have that view everyone, or you can go view speaker, I suppose. So if you click that, then
Yeah,
you will see the full screen, and then you should be able to see what's written on the whiteboard.
yeah, yeah. It says view who is talking.
View who is talking. Okay, great. So let me continue. This was in Melbourne, Australia, back in 2012. I was consulting a particular solar company. Now, since 2008 onwards, Australia decided that no, we have to move towards clean energy, renewable energy, and they came up with a lot of schemes saying that we should have like kind of rebates. We should be giving no encouraging people to go solar. And they came up with a scheme saying that if you are going to have solar on your roof, then government will pay so much of subsidy, and on top of that, whatever electricity that you are producing on top of your roof, if you are selling it back to the grid, to the government, then we will pay you 66 cents. Pretty much, no, people were making profit out of it. No, government was encouraging people to buy solar. Now, a lot of solar companies started, and here was a solar company. Let's call it as ABC Solar Company. Now, all they do is they sell solar panels, solar inverter, and of course, they take care of the installation. Now, this company, they have a supplier who will be supplying them solar panels and inverters, and at the same time they have got contractors who do the installation. Simple business model. They go to a particular home, and then they knock the door and they say, here is the government rebate, all the benefits. The salesman will do whatever they are expected to do. They pitch, and the let's say the homeowner, they will say, oh, you know what, yes, we want solar, and how much will it cost? Now, the solar salespeople were trained not to tell them the exact amount, simply because they wanted to know if the money, if the dollars was coming from their pocket, or no, where the customer is looking for some kind of a finance facility. So this company had a tie-up with a lender. So they finance these homeowners, saying that, you know what, you want to buy solar, it will cost you $5,000, $10,000. We will pay to the solar company, and you pay us on a monthly basis. Now, there will be a fixed EMI, and you go on paying, and you repay it within 12 months or 18 or 24 months. Looking from this solar company's perspective, let's say they have their bank account here. If the owner is directly paying them, then the money will come into their bank account immediately on the same day, if not the next day. If not, the lender is making the payment again in the next few days. So once they get the money in their bank, then they go and order with the supplier, saying that we want this particular panel and this particular inverter. And then they will communicate with the contractor, who will go to that particular place. They do the installation and all the inspections, so on and so forth. Which means this business, whether they wanted it or not, by default, the model is cash first comes in to the business, into their bank account, and then they have time to pay them. And this supplier, they were giving them 30 days credit. So which means after they supplied the panels and the inverter, they said pay us after 30 days. Contractors, they were giving them 14 days. Every fortnight, they were asking them to make the payment. A business already has got money. On top of that, they have 30 days and 14 days time to pay their suppliers. Of course, this was a big push by the government to make sure that more and more people are having solar, and then it's going to be renewable energy, green energy. this company, when they started, within the first 6 months, they became the highest distributor of solar panels, installation of solar panels in the state of Victoria within 6 months. In the next 1.5, 2 years, they were almost one of the top three, and they were making 24 million in sales every year. So, which is 2 million on an average every month. So just imagine $2 million cash coming into the business every month. So which is like having more money. And do you know what the business owner ended up doing? They spent 250,000 renovating the office space that they had, which they had rented. So on a rental property, they spent $250,000, having more cabins and better furniture and so on and so forth. They had their own call center. They didn't believe it in outsourcing it to India or Philippines. And sometimes the call center people were saying, oh, you know what, I'm so tired, I had a stressful day. Oh, is that so? How about let's have our own indoor gym? They went and have their own indoor gym for $10,000. And they went on spending money left, right, center because every month they are making 2 million in cash. And whenever top management, they see so much of cash, it is so difficult to tie the hands of the business owner. And they went about spending all of these money in assets like this, which sometimes were not even non-performing asset. It was not even essential asset. Well, when things were good, everything was all right. They were making money, and it continued till 2012 until the government reached its target and said, well, I think we have reached our target. Now we will not be able to give 66 cents rebate to the homeowners. We will make it 33 cents to all the new customers. Immediately, for the next 3 months, people who had signed the contract, they cancelled it. And in Australia, you can do that. There is a 14 days a grace period, even after you have said yes to it. Within the 14 days, if you change your mind, you can cancel the contract. Of course, you'll be paying a nominal admin fees. All of them, they cancelled. For the next 3 months, this business had absolutely zero income. However, they had bills to pay. They were supposed to pay $80,000 every week because they had 64 employees. And of course, they were in a rented properties, so on and so forth. The savings that they had pretty much was kind of evaporating. And then the people, the top management had to let go of all the employees, and employees were not happy. They were taking them to fair work. They were saying that I have been made redundant in a not a fair way, so on and so forth. And within 6 months, this company filed bankruptcy. The point I'm trying to make here is, rather than saying, okay, I'm back. Rather than just saying, you know what, having more cash than required is bad or it's not good or so on and so forth, if you give an example and communicate through stories, then people will be, oh, okay, it makes sense. So another effective way of communicating numbers is by using that relevant, preferably your personal example that has happened in your life or you have heard in the immediate circle, so that people can easily relate to it. Now, let me share the third tip. Before that, let me give you an example. Imagine there's a person called as Amar, and Amar is walking on the street, and all of a sudden, let's say he finds 12,000 rupees lying on the street. So Amar looks around, picks it up, puts it in his pocket. Now, don't ask me which street and how he ended up finding 12,000 rupees. He just found it. Now, let us say Amar has got a friend called Akbar. For some reason, Akbar needs 12,000 rupees. So on 1st of January, Akbar will approach Amar and he will say that, hey Amar, you know what, I need 12,000 rupees. Can I borrow it from you? I'll pay you 10% annual interest. Now, Amar knows if he keeps 12,000 in his pocket, it is still going to be 12,000 even after 1 year. On the other hand, if he gives 12,000 at the rate of 10%, at the end of the 1 year, he'll be having 1,200 rupees extra, provided Akbar pays and Amar collects. Now, Akbar has got a friend, and I would like you to guess his name. What do you think Akbar's friend's name is?
Anthony.
So people are like, Anthony. So obviously it is Anthony. Amar, Akbar, Anthony. So okay, let me tell you something. Again, comparing the unknown with the known. You would have heard the song or the movie. What's the movie? Amar, Akbar, Anthony. So it's something relatable to people. Okay, let's continue. So you have Anthony. Of course, in Australia, I'm not using the example Amar, Akbar, Anthony. It will be Tom, Nick, and Harry. It according to the geographical location, we accordingly change. Now, let us assume that Anthony also needs 12,000 rupees for some reason. Again, on 1st of January, he approaches Akbar and says, hey, Akbar, can I borrow 12,000 rupees? I'll pay you 20% annual interest. Now, looking from Akbar's perspective, he has borrowed 12,000 at 10%. Now he has got an offer where he can lend the same 12,000 at the rate of 20%. So obviously he's like, oh, I'm making 10% profit. So he'll say yes. However, there is a small change with regards to how they have got into this contract. Between Amar and Akbar, they have got into an agreement where Amar has clearly said, Akbar, you are expected to pay me the monthly interest on 5th of every month. So 5th of every month, I want you to pay that monthly interest of 100 rupees. Between Akbar and Anthony, they have got into an agreement where Anthony has said, Akbar, I can only pay the monthly interest on 15th of every month, which is 200 rupees. So now I have a question for you. What do you think will happen on 5th of February? Feel free to unmute yourself or you can type it in the chat box. What will happen on 5th of February? Who would like to share? No, feel free to unmute yourself. Okay, so Mr. Harsh Jain is saying Akbar has to pay 100 to Amar. Exactly. So Akbar has to pay 100 to Amar. So Amar will come knocking the door saying that, hey Akbar, today is 5th of February. Where's my monthly interest? And Akbar is like, oh, I made profit, but I don't have cash to pay you because Anthony, who has borrowed from me, will be paying on 15th of January. So this scenario is called as negative cash cycle. People are like, oh, okay, great. And then you can bring in your explanation of business on top of this. So let us get rid of Akbar, and in place of Akbar, let us have business. Not you, business. Now, I'm sure you'll agree with me. Or in fact, let me ask this question. Feel free to type it in the chat box. What are some of the resources that are required to start, grow, manage a business? Now, to start a business, to grow a business, to manage a business, what are some of the resources that are required? Quickly, type it in the chat box, please. Working capital, yes. Capital, yes. Assets, yes. Pretty much everyone. Finance, great. Now, most of the things that you're typing in, and at the same time, many more things like, yes, management, knowing, also at the same time, knowing whom to employ, so on and so forth, coordination. So all these resources can be brought under two headings: financial capital and intellectual capital. Financial capital is all about how business will go about borrowing money and how it will go about using it. Intellectual capital is all about know-how, knowing how to manage a business, knowing how to convert a raw material into a finished product, knowing how to offer a particular service, knowing how to go about recruiting people. So looking from business perspective, business is borrowing financial capital or intellectual capital, and either it is selling a product or a service, or both product and service. So broadly speaking, only three kinds of businesses. Business that makes money by manufacturing a particular product and selling it, business that makes money by offering some kind of a service, and business that makes money by selling a product and offering service to that particular product, more or less retail. And then you can introduce more of the jargon, like, oh, this is negative cash flow, oh, this is another common mistake people do, oh, this is what cost of liabilities is, oh, this is how the profit margin works, and so on and so forth. So my third tip for you is create your own fictional characters. And again, no, these are all fictional characters, which means there is very less emotion attached to it. And it is another effective way to make your client or your audience or your students detach emotionally and look at it from a different perspective. And whenever I share this, people are like, oh, in that case, you're saying Akbar will be an idiot if he goes about doing this. Oh, okay, this is what, no, that's a stupid thing Akbar will be doing, right? I was like, yeah. Imagine if I had to say that, hey, if you make this decision, business owner or a manager, you will be making a stupid decision. They'll be like, oh my God, how dare you say that I make a stupid decision or I'm foolish. But now we have detached that emotion, and then, okay, now let's blame it on Anwar, Akbar, Anthony, and then you come up with your own fictional characters. Okay, let me continue. Now, one of my clients, I think this was back in 2015, he happened to attend one of my programs that I had conducted and said, Chinmay, you know what, we are having a board meeting and we'll be mainly discussing the budget and the forecast for the next financial year. And our CFO, he's a gem of a person. He knows in and out of finance. However, what we struggle is to understand his language. He comes up with all this colorful chart and he's making all the presentation, but many of us we find it difficult. We ask for clarification and he's more than happy to answer it, but because he knows the subject in and out, again, even when he's clarifying it, it becomes very difficult for us to understand, and sometimes we feel that I shouldn't be seen as bit dumb in front of everyone. So we just nod the head and we're like, yeah, we got it. But end of the day, we are still not able to relate. So would you mind being part of a board meeting? You can just sit there as a spectator and then help us to relate with regards to what he's communicating. I said, yeah, I can do so, but however, we have to do it in a very subtle way because the CFO should not feel threatened, or the CFO should not feel that why is that I've got another financial expert in the room when I am here. And then anyway, we had all the so-called interpersonal communication to make sure that it was a safe environment. And one of the top decision maker introduced me saying that this is Chinmay, he wants to look from an outsider's perspective, and he will be giving his 2 cents on whatever we are going to discuss. And the CFO started his presentation, colorful PowerPoint slides, heading, subheading, bullet point, bar chart. Heading, subheading, bullet point, pie chart. Heading, subheading, bullet point, under colorful graph. And people are like, yeah, they're making notes, they're asking some question immediately saying, oh, the EBITDA is so much, this is so much. Oh, by the way, we have product A, B, C, D, E, F, so and so. This product is giving us so much of profit margin. This is 4.56, this is 8, this is 10, this is 12, and our profit margin is this. And people are like, oh, okay. Now, as an outsider, I was thinking, most of the people in the room, they do not have finance or accounting background, and they're still stuck with the conception, with the perception that finance is too complicated. And this is where I was just looking around and I happened to see someone having McDonald's burger. Now that whatever wrap, they wrap it in a paper and they keep it, and it was on the table. So when time came and they're like, oh, Chinmay, would you like to share something? I went, it's interesting to see that someone has I had breakfast at McDonald's, and they were not expecting in a serious meeting, me talking about McDonald's. So I'm like, great. Who, if you don't mind me asking, who bought this? And the lady in the room, she said, it's me. Oh, great. Now I'd like to ask a question, if it's okay with everyone. They said yes. How many of you have been to McDonald's? Everyone raised their hand. And how many of you have just bought one burger from McDonald's? People said, oh, just one burger? No, we haven't bought. That is simply because whenever you go to McDonald's, they make sure along with burger, they will upsell you with fries, cookies, and that sugar water. The operating profit on burger is 4 to 5%. Repeat, operating profit is 4 to 5%. With fries and cookies, it is 3 to 5 times more. And that Pepsi or Coke, which is nothing but sugar water, which will cost them probably less than few rupees, they sell it for 50, 100, 200, 300 rupees. So they know how to bundle it, how to package it. So with the conversation that I have heard, you are saying in this organization, you have product A, B, C, D, E, F, so on and so forth. But I'm afraid when we categorize them, majority of your product are like burgers. People are like, oh. And in very few, I see it's like fries and cookies. However, I don't see anything that really falls in the so-called sugar water category. They're like, oh, yes, yes. And suddenly, again, this is what I tell my clients. You are more smarter than me when it comes to your business. I'm not here to tell you how you should be making decisions because you know more than me when it comes to your business. But unfortunately, numbers are not presented in a very meaningful way. They're like, oh yeah, I can relate to it. And then the conversation was all about, okay, how many products we have got like burgers? Oh, here it is. How many products we have got like fries? Oh, here it is. And then now everyone was on the same platform, on the same page, and then they were able to communicate in a different way. So my next step is compare apples to oranges. So even though they were like, oh, we are a manufacturing company, we make sophisticated all these tools, so on and so forth. And then I am giving an example of McDonald's. So I'm pretty much comparing apples with oranges, which you cannot relate, but yes, to an extent you can relate. And people will start using a different language altogether, saying that how many products are like burgers, how many are like fries, and so on and so forth. Okay, great. So let's continue. Now, who do you think this is? I'm sure it's going to be an easy guess. So this person that you see on my screen, who do you think this gentleman is? Thank you. It's Albert Einstein, of course. Now, when we say creative, you're like, oh, that's Albert Einstein. No, one of, of course, he has come with a lot of quotes. He has said many things, but one of my favorite quotes that he said is, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Because to keep things simple, it is very hard. To explain it to a 6-year-old, it is very challenging. Because we can't use, again, the sophisticated jargon and terminology. This particular gentleman that you see was Abraham Lincoln. When he was the president, he wrote a letter to his son. And on that letter, at the end of the letter, this is what he said. I'm sorry, I wrote such a long letter. I did not have time to write a short one. If we have to communicate something in just a few minutes, it takes a lot of time because it's like you're squeezing a fruit or something, and then you have to give only the essence. I'm sure when you want to buy a essential oil, it's really expensive simply because they've completely squeezed the essence from that particular product, like a fruit, and then they're giving you that essential oil. Same thing. When we have to communicate something that has to be communicated in a very short span of time, we have to make sure that we have filtered and processed a few things. And one of the challenges that I have, most of the business owners, top decision makers have expressed with me is, they say when we want to make a specific, a particular decision, we ask for a specific relevant number. And as we had just discussed, most of the decisions we make in our life is directly or indirectly related to numbers. So even in business, when they want to make that decision, they ask for a specific relevant number. But unfortunately, when they ask a finance person or accountant or someone who's in charge, they come and dump data in form of Excel files, and it will have sheet within a sheet, and then all the colorful charts, the so-called business intelligence tools, so on and so forth. But still, end of the day, it is data. Data is like crude oil. I repeat, data is like crude oil. It has to be filtered. It has to be processed. So my next step is to keep things simple. Data filtered becomes information. Information processed becomes relevant information. I repeat, data filtered becomes information. Information processed becomes relevant information. And that relevant information interpreted and communicated in form of stories becomes a meaningful conversation. So after interacting with a lot of financial gurus, we came up with a financial tool which takes data from all the fancy accounting software that are already available in the market. And then we process it so that we take only those relevant information, and that relevant information gets in the form of an intelligence tool to our clients. Now, again, probably when time permits, some other day I'll be showing you this particular software. But the point I'm trying to make here is there are already so many sophisticated software that are already out there in the market. The question is, when we are going to interact with the top decision makers, are we going to keep it simple, or are we going to bombard them with more data? So let me quickly recap what we have discussed so far. The first tip that I shared is to compare the unknown with something that people already know. So you're comparing an unknown with the known. Then share a relevant story that is directly applicable for that particular situation. And preferably, if it is a personal story, nothing like that, because it's your personal story. Otherwise, it will be very generic and people may have heard it or read it somewhere else. The third thing is to create your own fictional characters. Now, this is where now you have to be creative, go wild out there, and immediately, you will start seeing things. And this is something that I learned when I was having a conversation with one of my clients. And this client, we are sitting across a table, and all of a sudden he took a coffee mug and he said, "Chinmay, imagine this is one of my unit." Then he took a water bottle. He said, "Imagine this is my second unit. Imagine this is my third unit." And suddenly I was like, wow, this is like absolutely we don't have any emotion with these cups and bottles and so on and so forth. And that gave me an idea to come up with fictional characters. Fourth thing is pay forward what you have learned, or in other words, compare apples with oranges. And the fifth thing is to keep things simple and specific, the philosophy of KISS. Now, let me quickly share with you, before we open up for question and answers session in the next 10 to 15 minutes, a research that was done by these two gentlemen. The person on the extreme left of your screen, his name is Steve Simpson. He is my mentor when it comes to professional speaking. And his business partner, Steph Duplessis, who lives in South Africa. Both of them, their expertise is organization culture. They pretty much consult the who's of the who in the mining sector, the McLarens of the world, so on and so forth. They did a research, I believe, like 10 years back, and it was mainly to compare and understand the hard skills, which is like technical skills that someone really need to be good at, and at the same time soft skills, which in this context is more about how do we fit into the culture of the company. Again, still don't understand why soft skills is called soft skills, because it is one of the hardest skills to kind of master and acquire. But anyway, let's go with the common term that most of us are familiar with. So what they found out is people who are good at what they do. Now, if you're going to hire an accountant, you expect the accountant to know all the accounting things. Same with a lawyer, you expect them to know all the law, so on and so forth, compliance thing. Even if you're employing an engineer, you expect that engineer to know whatever they're expected to know in that particular job. So those are all technical skills, hard skills. So someone who's good at hard skills and at the same time they fit well within the culture of the company. Now, every company will have its own culture. So someone who can fit well within the culture of the company and at the same time who are good at what they do, they are known as role models. And people say, no, that is how a team member should be. That is how a particular employee should be. So they become role models. They're pretty much saying, oh, this is the benchmark. On the other hand, people who are good at what they do, but many a times they don't really fit well within the culture of the company. No, they might don't really respond to immediate emails. They may not turn up to meetings on time, but they're really good at what they do. They are known as prima donnas. Now, prima donnas are in the orchestra, the person who is doing the thing and controlling the whole orchestra, and you have the limelight falling on that particular person. They are known as prima donnas. Now, the interesting or challenging thing here is you can't fire them simply because they're really performing. However, when you have them in a particular team, the morale of the team goes down. Independently, they're really good at what they do, but once they are in a team, the morale of the team goes down, and the productivity goes down. Next, the third category. People who are really good at fitting into the culture of the company. However, they may not have the hard skills or the technical skills at that given point in time. Now, they might need extra training to be done. Now, they might have to be trained once again. They might take their own time to learn that particular technical skill. So people who are good at fitting well into the culture of the company, however, they take their time to understand, they are known as team players. Now, these are the ones who will give shoulder to the other team member. If someone is not present and they're absent and then they say because of some family reason, immediately the next day they'll ask them, is everything all right with your family? Is there anything that I can do for you? They're team players. And of course, people who are not good at what they do and at the same time who don't fit well within the culture of the company, well, they shouldn't have been recruited in the first place. They're wrong recruits. Now, I've asked this question, but again, I'll ask all of you this question. Ideally, everyone would love to have more role models in their organization, which means that they have to move and train either the prima donnas to become role models or at the same time move the team players to become role models. Now, from your experience, which is more challenging? Is it really challenging to move the team players to become role models, or is it more challenging to move the prima donnas to become role models? Now, you can quickly type in TP or PD. If you think it is prima donnas, please type in TD. If you think it's team players, type in TP. Okay, Mr. Nikitsa is saying PD, prima donnas. Harshjan is saying TP, team players. Okay, PD. Okay, more people are saying PD, prima donnas. Many a times, it is really challenging to move the prima donnas to become role models simply because they start with the three most dangerous words in English, and that is, I know that. And as Sadhguru says, I don't know opens a whole new world of opportunity. When someone is using, I know that, they're not ready to learn, they're not ready to be trained. Now, this is a challenge that was there yesterday. This is a challenge that is there today. And unfortunately, this will be a challenge moving forward. But what I'm interested to share here is when this happens. Or before that, let me give you a quick percentage with the research that they came up with. Role models, it's around 10 to 15%. Prima donnas. Now, this is a very generic number that is more or less applicable to most organizations. Team players, you have 30 to 35%, and then wrong recruits, you have 15 to 20%. Moving forward, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, there will be jobs that doesn't exist today. There will be skills that one needs to acquire that they may not have today. And whenever I share this, people go, what are those jobs? What are the skills? Honestly, I don't know. But what I know is there are certain common skills that remains kind of evergreen. When it comes to soft skills, whether it is going to be COVID or another external factor that is going to disrupt the whole world, still there is communication that we have to do, we have to master. And that's going to be evergreen, mastering communication. And another skill that pretty much, in spite of all the external factor, that will remain the same will be the finance, which is numbers. Now, language of business is numbers. So we have to understand numbers. So this is where communicating numbers through story is a skill that one needs to slowly start mastering themselves. So that skill will be evergreen moving forward. Great. Now we still have another 20 minutes or so. I would be more than happy to answer any question at this stage. Feel free to unmute yourself or type it in the chat box. Or maybe Dr. Rahul sir, if you would like to coordinate, I'll be more than happy for you to do so.
Yeah, sure. We have some students are typing their questions.
Okay, now quickly, I wanted to, I know it occurred to me. We have an online program called Business Finance Essentials, and this is like, as the name itself says, it's essentials, the simple basic jargon and terminology that one has to understand. So if you want access to it, it's like 20 videos all put together, which I usually offer it during these kind of webinars. If that is the case, then go to this particular web link, and you'll be asked for your name and your email ID, and my team within the next 24 hours, they'll make sure that they'll give you access for this particular small course, which has 20 videos. So the link, let me type it in the chat box as well. That ly slash BFE JLU. Okay, just type it in the chat box, so you can go there. Have please make sure that there is no typo when you're entering your email ID, because it will be sent to that particular email ID. There are 20 videos. It will take you like 75 minutes to watch all of them. However, it gives you an explanation of all the accounting and finance jargon in simple layman terms. Okay, sorry, Dr. Rahul, so you were saying something and I cut you off.
No, sir. Just we have a question from Parki Shukla, student of BCBF, semester 5th. She just wanted to know, you are also a CMA. So how CMA will help a student if they opt this as their career option?
Okay. So again, in the accounting world, they have their own hierarchies, and then pretty much they say that we are more important than the other. You have the chartered accountants, the CAs, and then you have the CMAs, certified management accountants, and then you have your company secretary. Now, to keep it in simple words, CAs usually, they are more from the compliance perspective, making sure that tax obligation and other things that the taxation office expects a business to comply, they take care of it. Whereas CMAs, they say that, oh, you know what, we look ahead. We don't, it's like, no, you're driving a car, and CAs, no, they're looking at the rear view mirror and making sure that everything is compliant and they're next to you. But CMAs are like navigators. They say, hey, in the next 3 months, 6 months, no, this is what you're expected to do. As I mentioned, no, one has to be jack of many trades and master of few, because 3 years from now, 5 years from now, there will be skills and jobs that doesn't exist today. So one has to make sure that they accordingly adapt. I in my wildest of the wildest dream, I never thought that one day I would be educating people on subject finance, because I've got engineering background. Of course, I did MBA back in 2007, 2008, and I ended up starting a business, hoping that having MBA next to my name, I could run a successful business. However, that wasn't the case. So I failed in quite a few businesses, nearly 6 businesses, and that is when I did something wise, which was asking for help. And my business mentor, he analyzed what all I had done and said, Chinmay, do yourself a favor, educate yourself on the subject finance, because finance is the root of how business makes money, and language of business is numbers. Neither I had the time or the money to go to a university to educate myself on the subject finance. Instead, I went around picking the brain of the best CFOs, financial gurus, standard accountants, management accountants for my own understanding. And later on, I realized there are many people out there who don't get it. So I started Finance Academy Australia in 2013-14. So to answer the question, CMA, definitely no. It's going to give you a boost in your career. It's going to be another extra feather in the cap. However, if you want to be an invaluable asset in any organization, you should be able to communicate whatever you are expressing, those numbers, so that even other people who don't have finance or accounting background, they can understand it. Because there are so many experts out there. Unfortunately, the team, or they say that we don't understand what they're trying to communicate. So there is that gap, and if you can come up, we're now filling the gap with your skill, then you are going to be an invaluable asset. In fact, there was a program that I have been conducting called How to Be a ITC instead of a CTC, how to be an investment to company rather than a cost to company. And if you want to be an investment to the company, then not just having a CMA next to your name will help you, but also how do you go about communicating those reports and then making sure that everyone is on the same page. That is going to give you that edge. So I hope I've answered that question, Dr. Hauser.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Sir, another question we have from students say like finance specialization incorporates several subjects. So, what are the core subjects which is expected from a student and he should be expertised in?
Okay. In fact, a while ago, I was presenting to one of the business schools where we had a lot of finance students, and I was asking them, what kind of role are you looking once you graduate? Do you want it in a banking sector? Are you somewhere in the private organizations or multinational organization, government, so on and so forth? And again, we had students saying that I would like to be part in out of the government thing or within the multinational organizations. Banking was where some of the people who were really interested. Now you have to understand what skill that they are expecting at this stage, and one of the best ways to go on those job profile platforms, portals, and then see, okay, as an investment banker, what are some of the responsibilities and what is that they are expecting? What are the prerequisites? Same thing if you want to be in the insurance space, so on and so forth. They'll have a very specific requirement. But one thing with larger organization, what happens is you are expected to play a very, how can I say, a role where you're like, okay, you take it from here and you pass it on to next person. And then for you to experiment or to spread your wings and then go to a different department, it becomes a bit challenging because there's so much of competition, and at the same time, there are too many options in the market. So personally, what I would suggest is initially, if you could be part of a startup or a small business or a family-run business, so on and so forth, then you pretty much you become like an all-rounder, because it's not just one specific job that you're expected to play. You will have to play sometimes the role of an accountant, a bookkeeper, and a CFO, and this. And sometimes they might say, "Oh, we have to prepare a proposal for the bank." Now, all of a sudden, no, you have to wear a different hat and make sure that you are presenting the balance sheet and other financial statement in such a way where the banker is like, "Oh, yes, now I'm more than happy to lend you the credit, the facility, or give you an overdraft facility." So even though I know that I'm not giving a very specific answer for your question because I don't understand your no expertise. What is that you would like to achieve? But what I would like to say is, for the next few years, make sure that you are pretty much like jack of many things, and then you slowly start mastering a few along the way.
होगा आपने देखो लेफ्ट भी हुआ कुछ राइट भी आएगा देखो तो जगह मैसेज का भेजा उसने
Okay, any more questions? Do we have any more questions from student side? Rapti, would you like to ask something? You were trying to say something.
Yes, sir. Sir, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
Raffi,
yes,
we can
you
hear
are.
you.
Yes, sir. As you were talking about investment banking for students like us who are pursuing BCom honors, so what should be our next steps so as to reach that goal, or what should we do after BCom honors to, get into the major finance field?
Okay. See, I was having a conversation with one of the CFO, and then he pretty much heads the whole finance department of a company that makes 2,500 crores, and he's been in that field for nearly 20 years. And he said, one thing that I have seen with most of the finance professionals, even after 10 years, still they're not very clear which path or which area that they should be focusing on. Sometimes they go with a bit of investment banking, or sometimes they go, no, let me go with a startup, or sometimes they might say, you know what, I'll probably be part of no, MNC and so on and so forth. So I was asking him, in that case, what would you suggest? Or because things are changing so fast, and then technology, is picking up, and then they're expected to know certain softwares. So what do you expect? And one thing that he said is, make sure that you connect with the existing investment bankers, maybe on LinkedIn or in your known circle itself, and tell them that, you know what, I'm a BCom graduate, or I'm about to graduate, and I would like to know more about this particular profile. Go there as a student and ask them to, can you please share your wisdom or your learning? What are some of the things that I should be learning moving forward? And they will tell you exactly what is happening as of today. And pretty much they will tell you, we need these kind of people with this kind of expertise to join us on board. Or they might say, you know what, the future of investment banking is in this particular domain, and you really need to understand this particular software or whatever program it is. So maybe, Trapti, what I would suggest you is, and I hope that you have a LinkedIn profile, connect with existing investment bankers or through your known network itself, or get in touch with a few of them and ask them, because they will know as of today what's happening here in India and what are the opportunities that are available.
Okay, any more questions from student side?
Well, I'll share my file, so feel free to connect with me, and if I have got few people in my network whom you would like to be connected, I'm more than happy to make that connection. Okay, I think there is someone who's messaged Parth Kave saying that amazing analogy, sir. Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
Am I audible? Yeah, okay. Yeah. No, I
Yes,
just
yes.
wanted to acknowledge that this is a wonderful conversation. There are few things that I would particularly be interested in actually learning in the fact that I have watched you. So I know that technology didn't work that well today. We had some problem in terms of catching the feed, uh, but it seems that whatever technology you are using to present, that was wonderful to actually see the presentation and you behind so-called the slides, and then the having conversation. That was very impressive. Now, I would definitely want to know something about that in terms of what you were using, how you were in intelligence software. So I think that's the easy part. Uh, Thank you so much for what you shared with us, not only about the how do you tell stories, but I think the visuals were very impressive, and the way you link the concepts to the real life, as to how you feel them in business. That was fantastic. The example that you gave in terms of when having more money is actually a curse, and how the managers actually, given the temptation that they have in the linear projections for future, can actually trap you. That was wonderful. I think I recently saw and also shared this on my LinkedIn. A wonderful example of an entrepreneur who out to raise a fund, and when the investors who were willing to actually provide more fund, he actually refused to accept more fund, saying that I don't so much. So uh, mm, fantastic uh, conversation there. It also reminded me of Ashwadamodaran valuation course. And I have to disclose this. I'm actually doing this course now. I have done consulting and then value exercises, super from a consulting side several times for companies that are advise them are going for listing or are going for a strategic fundraise. I have to admit that Professor Damodaran's videos, way he thought about some of those concepts and how even accountants treat some of those accounting entries, such as R&D expenses to amortize them, or are you going to expense them? When you are going to amortize them, and how the laws different countries uh, about the treatment, the lease things, and how the uh, lease accounting is actually changing, and why should you actually
Still, I can hear you speak.
firm lease commitment as debt, and then consider not expense them but actually bring them into the balance sheet.
Am I audible?
Mr. Chinmay?
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nilesh sir, for your comments.
Some technology issues.
Okay, now yes, because now as I was able to. Okay, please.
Sound.
We have few more questions from the student side. If you can see in the chat box. How can
Yes,
I start my own organization after completing my graduation? Ananya Singh Raghuvanshi.
Okay, so Ananya, it's no. Thank you for the question. It's good to know that you would like to have your own organization and be an entrepreneur. What I would suggest you is to be very clear at the beginning. What is the problem that you're going to solve? What is that you're going to sell? Is it a product or a service, or both product and service? And what is the problem it is solving? So once you're clear with that, then I usually suggest people to you use something called as to fail fast, to fail often, and to fail cheap. Three things: fail fast, fail often, and fail cheap. Unfortunately, we have got a very negative kind of association with the word failure. But it's only through you testing it out. No, you go there, you test something will not work, something will work, and you take it forward. As engineers, there was a term we used to use, TOTE: test, operate, test, exit. You're testing something, you're operating it. If it works, continue. If it doesn't, exit, try something else. And the last one, failing cheap is very critical. Now, I'm not sure if you will be starting something with your own funds, or you'll be borrowing from your family or friends or from a bank. Make sure that if things doesn't go according to plan, you can still get back up and keep moving forward and try other ventures or try something else differently, because that is something that is very critical. And of course, there's many other things that goes along with it. But what I would say is, go there, start. It's only by stepping into the water you will get to know how deep it is. At the same time, make sure you have some kind of a business mentor. Now, my mother used to always tell me, Chinmay, you cannot see your own back. So you need other people who can look at what's happening around you from a different perspective. And this is why it's very important to have a mentor or a coach, and with whom you can bounce ideas and then see how to take it to the next stage.
Thank you so much for your expert answer, sir. Any more questions from student side?
I think Parth Khare has again typed in saying that could you please share with us some tools or softwares that you use in your professional life for the same. In fact, I wanted to show the software that we have built, but with the internet lag and no, I felt it will be not possible. So Parth, what I would suggest is feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I will share you a link to a particular video where it will give you an understanding of what our software is. And if you're interested, I can ask some of my team members to give you a demo, and then you'll get a better understanding of what's happening in the world of business intelligence tool.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir.
All good. Now again, I'm still not sure why the internet is so slow today. Now at my end, it is streaming at a regular speed. I'm not sure if it is because of the GoToMeeting? Have you experienced this before, or is it something that is happening today? Mr. Niket, you're on mute.
No, we haven't experienced. Yeah, no, we haven't experienced this so far. I think this was the first time that we face such a challenge.
Oh, strange. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Dr. Rahul, please go ahead.
No, sir. No, sir. Is there anything else you would like to add for the students? The final comments from expert comments from your side?
Well, no, I would say pretty much I'll be repeating myself. Don't think that once you graduate, that's it, you have learned everything. Now, I understand that you have your professors, your dean here, but still I'll make this statement. No university can prepare you for your life. No university can prepare you for you to be like completely future-proof. Of course, they can equip you and come up and help you to have skills with regards to what might happen, but your learning has to continue. Today, whatever I'm doing here in Australia, and India, at both places, is simply because fortunately I had mentors who could see more in me than I could see in myself, and they made sure that I'm constantly learning and evolving. So I have been learning more. I've been reading books which I was not reading before when I was in university after I graduated. And this is another thing. It really surprises me when you are giving your resume. When I've seen a lot of resumes that are out there, no one mentions in their hobbies or so and so saying that, you know what, I have read 50 books, or I have read, here are the list of all the books that I have read. Now, 3 days back, I was part of an investors meetup kind of a thing, and we had the vice president of Paytm, Mr. Saurabh Jain, and he said since 2015 onwards, every week he's making an attempt to read one book. So he had a startup. In 2015, he decided to read one book a week. In 1 year, he said he could feel that internally he was changing and he was more happier. And within 2.5 years, he ended up being a vice president of Paytm. Because books, it has got those frozen wisdom and thoughts that are out there. So I would highly recommend you to come up with your own book club or have a book accountable buddy where you don't have to read each and every line. Just get the gist of it. Keep bouncing ideas. As Einstein said, when two minds meet, the third mind is born. So keep interacting, keep bouncing ideas, and don't say that this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Yes, if that is what you're very clear, go ahead, but still make sure that you are mastering many other skills. Because with I'm sure that most of the academicians who are here, we never thought that one day we had to learn all the skills and had to present in front of a camera and still
keep the attention span of these students. So this is a skill that we had to learn along the way. So similarly, there's so many skills and jobs that will open up in the next few years. As I mentioned before, it doesn't exist today. So as Steve Jobs said, no, be curious, be hungry, and stay foolish.
Thank you so much, sir. Now finally we come to the end of this session. So, sir, it was really very interesting to listen your experience and the way you have explained about jargons and everything to the students, how you should keep things simpler. That is more important. You should not make things complicated. That we have learned as faculties. Sir, we wish and I request for another session if we can plan in future. So I need your work. I mean, a rough consent so that we can in future plan one another session for the students.
Sure, definitely, Rahulji, because even I'm a bit disappointed with the technical issues we face today. I know that I may not have really communicated, and especially if the audio and video is not very clear, it's very easy to get distracted. So I'll be more than happy to, in fact, conduct this program to a different audience in your university, or we can come up with a different title altogether. So from my end, I would definitely say yes, I'm open for it.
Thank you so much, sir. And may I request Dean, Professor Dr. Nilesh Khare, sir, to put a vote of thanks for Mr. Chinmay Anand ji. I hope, Nilesh, sir, your voice is not audible. I mean, your voice is not audible. On behalf of you, Nilesh, sir, on behalf of you, I would like to continue. Because your voice is not clear. So, sir, very thankful. We are very thankful to you that you accepted our proposal to come here online today. And really, you have given good insights to our students, and they will be enlightened and they will work according to the guidelines that you have given in the area of finance. With this view, with this wish that you will be once again with us online, I'm very thankful once again to you for coming and accepting this proposal for addressing the students. Thank you once again, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Rahulji. Thank you, Dr. Nilesh, sir. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
So